Things you would never bring up in therapy, you could bring up here.
How do I let go of heartache and truly leave it in the past? I'm struggling to accept that it's over.
When you say you're having a really hard time getting over it, what I hear is you loved it deeply, you attached, you built something in your mind and body, and your system hasn't caught up to ending it yet. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's proof you cared. It's proof that you loved. So instead of trying to erase it, I'd ask you to do something different. One, let yourself grieve without rushing toward the exit, right? Loss is a nervous system event. It lives in the body before it leaves the mind. Two, separate the pain from the self-worth. Heartache often carries a hidden question. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Why wasn't I chosen? That's the wound talking, not the truth. And then three, keep what the relationship gave you, not what it took. So much of us are focused on what a relationship took from us, not what it gave us. And all relationships, healthy or not, gave us something, right? Ask yourself, what did I learn about how I love? What do I know now about what I need? How did this relationship grow me, even if it also broke me? And one more, build a life that can hold joy again. You know, you don't move on by thinking differently. You move on by living forward. Tiny things to count, sun on skin, a good meal. I tell people I found myself through barbells, motorcycles, and donuts, and this is what I did. I moved on by living forward. Your nervous system needs new experiences to overwrite old memories.
Why do you call breakups expired relationships?
So I've been in 4 big relationships. One was a marriage, all 3 years plus, and of course sprinkled dating along the way. And what's really helped me was understanding that every relationship needed to end when it ended for me to move on and learn something new from a different dynamic. It's hard to know this at the time, but in looking back, it was really helpful for me to see that each relationship expired, and it wasn't meant to go a day longer or end a day sooner. It was almost like there is a passing of the growth baton from one love experience to another one, and each one allowed me to learn more about myself, about love, just a whole new set of lessons, you know? Now, of course, it's a choice to say that a relationship has expired. Many don't like that term. When I was on Armchair Expert, Dax Shepard had an issue with that term. We never got to it because I disclosed when I was 12, I had sex with a plum because I knew that sex didn't feel like an apple pie. And of course, we went down that road, which I would have too, and never got to it. But I'm assuming people have a problem with me comparing previous relationships to milk, right? And it could be minimizing. I get that. But for me, when you say something has expired, like a relationship, there's acceptance in that. And there's a surrendering. There's a peace that comes with that, knowing that something has expired, that it's ran its course. Because a breakup sounds traumatic, explosive. It can feel that way. But if you know that every relationship that has ended has expired and there was a reason and set you up for more learning as you take your learning and move it into the next relationship, I see synchronicity. I see something greater.
How do I find the courage to leave a relationship?
You don't find courage before you leave, or you may be waiting forever. You find courage after the decision to leave, and courage comes in moments, right? You find courage like finding vines as you're sinking into quicksand. Courage is collected like coins as you are going through your journey of rebirth and starting over. Courage is not found before you leave. People think they're scared of leaving, but they're actually bonded to what feels familiar, and your nervous system would rather stay in pain that it recognizes than step into something that is unfamiliar, that it can't predict. So here's what actual courage looks like. One, stop asking, can I survive this? Instead, ask yourself, what is it costing me? What is it costing my body, my children, my life, right? And the way that you negotiate your truth to keep the peace, the body already knows the answer. Courage begins when you start listening to it. 2, you got to grieve the fantasy, not just a person. You're not only leaving a relationship, a job, a city, an identity, you're leaving who you thought you'd become by staying, or you're leaving the possibility of someone potentially changing, which may never happen, right? 3, you separate discomfort from danger. Your system will say this feels unsafe, but it's actually not true. What's true is that it is unfamiliar. And there's a difference between unsafe and unfamiliar. And you have to know that difference, because unfamiliar is where courage lives, leaning into that. Unsafe is very different. And you may think that something is unsafe, so you commit yourself to not do something, when in actuality, it may be the right thing to do, because that's where the growth and stretch is, because it's unfamiliar, not necessarily unsafe. And then I would say the last thing is to trust your story, to know that you are going to go somewhere, and if you don't, then your story runs flat, and this may be an act break, or even a new chapter, or even an act break in your life, and you got to trust that there's going to be a character arc, which is yours.
How do I know if my relationship is worth saving or if it's time to let go?
All right, obviously I can't answer this question because there's no blanket answer, right? Every relationship is different, but I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself. When you imagine staying, does your body soften or brace? When you imagine leaving, is the grief cleaner or heavier? Are you tired because the relationship is hard, or because you are doing it alone? Is the effort mutual, or are you negotiating for basic care? Are repairs happening, or are you just reopening the same wound with new language? Are you guys able to repair? Because repair, without it, there's only rupture, and the plane's going to go down eventually, right? Do you miss them, or do you miss who you were when you felt chosen? Are you growing inside this relationship, or just getting better at shrinking? If nothing changed, could you accept this life without resentment? Are you staying out of love, or out of fear or loss, disruption, or starting over? When you speak your truth, does the relationship move closer or shut you down specifically? Are you fighting for the relationship, or fighting the relationship itself? There's a huge difference. A lot of people think they're fighting for the relationship, and they're actually fighting the relationship. If your child or best friend were in this dynamic, what would you want for them? Is this relationship asking you to evolve, or is it abandoning yourself? Or is it asking to abandon yourself? When you stop trying for a moment, does everything collapse? The goal isn't to decide quickly. The goal is to notice honestly, right? A relationship worth saving usually isn't perfect, but it is alive. There is responsiveness, there's repair, there's shared responsibility for the distance. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, that being said, isn't to try harder, it's to tell the truth about what trying has cost you.
How do I choose myself after a divorce and let her go?
After any expired relationship, letting go is a daily practice of withdrawing energy from the fantasy and reinvesting it back into you, your body, your future, your nervous system. So here's what it actually looks like. First, you got to grieve the bond, not just the person. You're not just letting go of her, you're letting go of the version of yourself that existed inside that relationship, right? Divorce fractures identity. So the ache isn't only that you miss her, it's who are you without the mirror she provided. Let yourself grieve that identity death fully. Unprocessed grief keeps you emotionally married.
2, stop negotiating with the past. Your mind will keep reopening the case. If I only said this, or if she only did that, the whole if, and then playing back what could have been is a trap. This is your attachment system looking for control. Closure doesn't come from understanding why it ended. It comes from accepting that it did end. And every time you replay the story and you feel that bond. 3, let your body catch up to the truth. Intellectually, you know it's over, but somatically in your body, you may still believe, or your body may believe that it's not. And that's why you feel phantom pools, you check your phone, you feel tightness in the chest and your throat. This isn't weakness, it's your nervous system memory. So you got to release by moving through it. It's not a cognitive thing, it's a body thing. Number 4, choose yourself by choosing alignments, not distraction. Choosing yourself doesn't mean dating immediately, staying busy, proving that you're okay, right? That's avoidance dressed up as empowerment. Choosing yourself means asking, what brings you back to integrity with a connection to you? Who are you becoming? Lean into that. Then doing that even when it's quiet, lonely, and unglamorous. Doing that when things are hard. And finally, I will say, release her with gratitude, not resentment. So you don't have to carry the resentment. You don't let her go by erasing her. You let her go by honoring what was real and accepting what couldn't continue. Resentment keeps you tethered. Gratitude loosens the knot. You can say, this relationship shaped me, and I'm no longer meant to live inside it.
What are the true stages of a relationship?
Okay, here we go. The stages of a relationship, the actual character arc. First, it feels like magic. You don't know them yet, so your imagination does the heavy lifting. Every text lands like a miracle. Every silence feels charged with meaning. You're not falling in love with the person. You're falling in love with the feeling of being chosen, the idea of the person, everything that could be, right? Then comes the next stage, the glow. You start sharing stories. Trauma gets edited. Red flags look like green flags or maybe yellow flags. You touch more than you talk, and you guys are really exploring and getting to know each other. And you believe chemistry is compatibility because it feels good in your body. Then the reality kicks in. The nervous system meets, the coping styles show up, the different attachment styles. One reaches, one retreats, you start having the same fight in different outfits. This is usually where people say, I don't know if this is a good fit, right? And this is when we have the fork in the road. Some people leave here because there is contrast, and they can call it incompatibility. And then others stay and they say, no, this is what love looks like. Now, this is where the hard work happens, right? This is the unsexy stage, learning how to fight, learning how to repair, working through activation and everything that's triggering you, learning how to listen without preparing a defense, learning that love is less about being understood and more about staying present when it's uncomfortable. And this is where romance gets replaced with responsibility, not obligation, responsibility, the kind that says, I will lean into this even when my ego wants to run. Most people want the beginning, few want the middle, and almost no one is taught how to do the work. So if you stay, though, long enough, something better than magic shows up. Safety, depth, trust that has been tested, a love that isn't loud but steady, right? This is when you swim past the breakers, and this is when you start to give yourself a corrective love experience. So after the work, then something quieter happens. The relationship stops being the place where you get something and starts becoming the place where you practice being someone.
What advice would you give someone entering their first relationship?
If you're going into your first ever relationship, by the way, if I have white on my face or I look like a geisha, that is zinc that is needed to protect you from the sun when you're surfing. First, congratulations. I want to say that entering a relationship and wanting to love someone is courageous, If I was to say one thing, I would just say this: to be easy on yourself, because when we get into a relationship, especially if it's the first one, you're about to learn a lot. There's going to be activation, there's going to be contrast, there's going to be
a lot of you learning how to repair, because every relationship has ruptures. There's going to be you wanting to react instead of respond. And I'm telling you that it doesn't matter how much you're in love, that doesn't build the legs of a relationship. You actually have to start working on building tools and looking inward. You are going to go through your hero's journey, and that is exciting. It takes courage, and I can't wait till you come back to the village changed after slaying dragons. And I'll be honest, you're probably going to do it a few times, because love is not just about a choice. It's about a lot of reps.
How do I mindfully pump the brakes when I feel myself getting ahead too quickly while dating?
Great question. Here we go. First, you got to pause the pace, not the process. You don't have to quit dating. You have to just stop sprinting, right? Fewer dates, more quality, more space between them. Let your body catch up with your calendar. Number two, check what's driving the exhaustion. Ask yourself, am I trying to be chosen, or am I over-explaining, over-performing, over trying to prove myself? Fatigue often shows up when you're dating from effort instead of alignment. And that is something I want you to underline: dating from alignment instead of just effort, instead of white knuckling. Number three, take your nervous system out of the app. Endless swiping floods the brain with false urgency. Set clear containers, 10 minutes or so, take also swipe when you like yourself, not when you feel desperate. Desire needs oxygen, not pressure. 4, stop dating potential. Exhaustion skyrockets when you're doing mental gymnastics, when you're future tripping, when you're filling in blanks, right? Look at the person and the situation with clear lenses. Number 5, replace some dates with self-connection. If dating is the only place you're seeking novelty, touch, or validation, it will drain you, and also it'll make you feel powerless. Go do things that make you feel alive without an audience. And number 6, tell the truth early, especially with yourself. If you're tired, say you're tired. If you're unsure, it's okay. Don't force certainty. Mindful dating isn't about momentum, it's about honesty. Number 7, chemistry. Remember this: without regulation is burnout. High intensity connections can feel exciting and then exhausting at the same time, right? Slow is not boring, slow is sustainable. I'm going to go surf, go do something to regulate your nervous system.